Hello and welcome. Today I'm looking forward to sharing my version of creating an Aurora Borealis or Northern Lights ink blended background. This video was created as part of the Card Crafters Collaborative hosted by Robin Marshall Clark, the Delta Crafter. We are coming together today to foster the positivity within our paper crafting community with a common theme of Fall Splendor. Here's a quick glimpse of the materials used for the technique and project. Let's get started. The colors I'm using from Stampin' Up's collection today are Granny Apple Green, Bermuda Bay, and Night of Navy. My inspiration today came from a Googled image of the Northern Lights. And so this image here in the top left of my screen has a nice big bright swoosh. So to get started with this technique, you're going to start by blending your greens and your teals all along the paper. No rhyme or reason for where I'm placing this. It just depends on what's inspiring you. If there's an image that you're looking at. I'm dabbing off, as most tutorials for ink blending will teach you, to try to avoid a little bit of the harsh ink spots. This again is Bermuda Bay on top of Granny Apple Green. And now for the Night of Navy, for me to add the detail of these light streaks, I'm using my sponge dauber. I'm going to be careful to apply a little bit of ink so that I can help shape these streaks of light. The benefits of using a sponge dauber over thin or thick blending brushes is the amount of detail that you can apply to help form these streaks of light. You'll notice on one side of this streak, it's a lot more detailed, a little bit more sharp than the other side. And so I'm using both the flat round piece or the bubbled round piece of the sponge dauber to apply soft lines. And then I can also use the edge of the sponge dauber to get more or apply more detail. So just one side of it. And if I angle my hand towards that line, you can see it can get a little bit more detailed, a little bit more sharp. A couple tips for this technique. One, it's really helpful to have an image of inspiration. Number two, you want to keep gradually adding more and more ink. I think with any blending project, it's really easy to overdo it with ink, and so you want to add just a little bit of ink before you start piling it on to make sure that the colors are moving where you want them to. My third tip is it might look blotchy right when you're creating and right in the moment. The ink is still a little damp, so give it a little while to dry after you're done making your background, and you'll notice that the colors blend together a lot better. Once you've shaped your streaks the way that you want them to look, you can now use your bigger blending brush to brighten up your streaks of light, to darken your edges. You can see here I keep going back in to touch up and add a little bit more detail to soften lines. And when you're satisfied with your background, I'm using a water painter. You can use anything to flick a little bit of water onto your background to add a little bit of star texture. Now I'm going to set this background off to the side, let it dry, let the blended colors come together, and I'll show you another variation. These ones are more like flares of light. I'm going to use the same step, same technique, but it's going to show you that you can really make these streaks of light look anyway. So here, this is a similar image. I can't exactly find the one that inspired me, but I know that this one partially did because of the mountains, and there's a little bit of a flare. And so applying the Granny Apple Green and the Bermuda Bay, and now I'm going to start creating the flares of light. So I slow it down here just for a little bit so you can see just with a soft touch, I'm bringing some of the Night of Navy down over the colors, the Bermuda Bay. And by doing this in a couple different places, I'm leaving the little streaks of light. And again, to get more sharp details, I'm using the edge of that sponge dauber. And I'm going to keep repeating this as I create all these different flares. With almost every application of the sponge dauber, I make sure to start by using that round bubbled area for a softer application first before I start diving into using the edge and getting sharper lines. I chose the Northern Lights as my theme for Fall Splendor because this beautiful display of nature's beauty, while occurring all year long, is best seen around the Arctic Circle beginning in September and can last all the way through March. This is such an inspiring way to start the fall. To finish this card, I simply centered it on a typical 4¼ by 5½ inch card base. I used the Mountain Air stamp set to heat emboss the silver mountains, and then the sentiment, "Follow your own star," came from the Stampin' Up! Set, Stepping Stones. I have one more time-lapse video of both of these Northern Light backgrounds to show you how blotchy it can look and how different it can look depending on how I apply the ink. I really hope after seeing this tutorial that it inspires you to give your own Northern Light background a try. And don't forget, when you have time, please check out the 4 other projects created for our Card Crafters Collaborative, hosted by Robin Marshall Clark, the Delta Crafter. The links can be found in the caption of this video. Thank you again for stopping by. Until next time.